So I've recovered my cells from an electroporation. They had non-antibiotic 2IT, and they shook for a little while. They actually went for 2 hours, which is a little bit longer than I wanted, but it'll work for our purposes. So we're going to do two things. Since we're doing an RBS library, we're going to titer our library. That means that we're going to take this transformation and we're going to do a serial dilution of it. We're going to plate that serial dilution using multi-channel pipettes. And then we're going to plate our library using beads to spread around our media so that we get a very even spread. So I'm going to start off with 10 microliters. I've already aliquoted out 990 microliters of PBS into that first well, so that when I add my 10 microliters of media in there, which has all my bacteria, that's going to be a 100x dilution, and then the rest all have 900 microliters, so that I can just pull 100 microliters out of the top and keep on moving it down, 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 and I get that serial dilution. So 10 microliters. Going to the top, there's one. I'm going to be using new tips for each one. I'm going to move this over, make this clearer. It's a general lab tip. Always put your stuff next to where you are working. It's a huge headache to try to reach far, and it's also much more likely that you're going to knock stuff over, which I've done a couple times, and now I always keep everything very close to me. So we just got 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So we now have a 100x solution in this top plate, and I'm just going to do that serial dilution. Now I generally like to use the P200 multi-channel, but unfortunately I don't have it right next to me, so we'll just use the P1000. So I'm going to click this guy down to 100 microliters. I'm going to get some fresh tips. And I'm just going to go right in there, mix it up and down. I'm just mixing it up and down right now, so I'm pulling it up and down. I'm going to eject all my liquid, pull up 100 microliters, transfer it all the way down, all the way out, and then I'm just going to mix it and just do that all the way down. I usually switch tips halfway down. The reason I do that is so that if there's like a little bead of culture that somehow stuck onto one of the pipette tips and didn't get diluted out, it could throw off your dilution a lot, just because this is an order of magnitude for each serial dilution. So I'm going to switch tips after this one. So I'm going to eject my fluid, and I'm going to eject my tips, and I just have to remember that that's at the center. So sometimes I'll just put my finger there. I think I'll remember this one. Whoa. So again, pick up 100 microliters and continue that serial dilution all the way down. So again, I'm just being sure to mix it up real well. I'm going up and down. You can't really see it, but I'm going up and down about once per second. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's about how fast I'm going. And you want to make sure that gets really well mixed. Almost done. And I may sometimes even switch the tips like 3 times during this process. And then last one, up, down, and we're now ready to plate. So eject those tips, and I just remember that this is kind of the orientation of my samples. These 3 tubes are on those 3 wells, these 3 tubes are on these 3 wells, and the serial dilution goes down that way. So I'm going to take my titer plate for the MC1061, which are those 3 samples, and I'm going to say this is clone 2, clone 3, clone 4. I'm going to turn it around, open it up, grab my P20, oops, and I'm going to take that up to 10 microliters. 10 microliters is just kind of the math works out the best that way. So it looks like I'm running a little bit low on tips, so I'm just going to pick up my tips. go into the first lane, and we're going to see how dry or wet these plates are. If they're really wet, then it's a little bit dangerous, as our spots may bleed into one another. If they're drier, that's not that big of a problem. So we may have to redo this. And it looks like they are not bleeding into one another, which is good. And I usually just do it twice, just in case. Get myself an insurance policy here. So 1 and 2, and then eject tips, and then we'll just do one more. We'll do that one twice. So what this is going to give us when this dries is we're going to see very high density culture up there, and then it will get lower and lower and lower. It will peter out until finally we have nothing, and that will tell us how many cells we had, how many transformants we had per milliliter, per microliter, or whatever unit we're going to be using. So we're just going to do this one more time. Pull up 10 microliters, and now what I'm doing is I'm kind of getting about a centimeter above the plate, about half an inch. I'm ejecting and getting a drop on the tip of it, and then as I see that drop form, I just go down and let it hit the plate. And looks pretty good. I'm going to do that one more time. So I pick up 10 microliters, make those drops on the tip of my tips, and then touch the plate, nice and clean. And I would just do that for the next samples over. So that would be this sample, which would be that column, which would give me 1, 2. And then for these 3 samples, which would be those 3 wells, I would do the exact same thing. So we're just going to pretend that I've done that entire process, and now I'm going to show you how to actually plate the library. So when you're plating libraries, you want to make sure that you get a very even spread of your cells. When you're using a cell spreader like this, it's very easy to kind of get clumps, to miss a spot so you don't inoculate one spot, or maybe you kind of squeegee all the cells, make kind of like a cell drift, almost like a snow drift in one area of the plate. So in order to avoid that, you want to use the beads. So we're going to plate this little tube right here. So I'm just going to, whenever I'm plating, I just take my pipette all the way up to the maximum volume, just because I suck up that amount, and then I just get anything else that comes. Spread my media kind of in the center, and we'll just do 2 at a time for right now. That's how many pipette tips I have left. So, number 3, open it up, pull up the media.
Either one in the one in top.
Open up these beads, and we only need a few of them.
So I mean, this is still low ticket. It doesn't take much to take this. These are really low. Yeah. Really.
And then, hopefully you can see the reflection on that, but you just kind of go up and down, and then shift it 90 degrees, up and down, and then I do smaller shifts. And depending on how the light is hitting it, you're going to be able to see what I would describe as the contrails of the beads, and you can see that there's a very nice even spread of the liquid over these plates, so that you're going to see a very homogeneous spread of your colonies. And you just shake these around, and then I'll put a flame up. We'll pretend that this is our flame. So when that flame is there, I kind of face my beads towards that flame, open my plates and let them dry. Once they're dried, I will toss the beads and put them in the incubator, and I'll just toss them in a little beaker that has bleach in them. And then you're good to go. Come back tomorrow, sequence, and party on.
Do you know if the wiki takes